stage, on stage with Jim and Tom. On stage, on stage with Jim and Tom. On stage, on stage with Jim and Tom. On stage, on stage with Jim and Tom. Tom and Jim.
Tonight we welcome singer-songwriter Matt Jaffe and his band to the stage of Phoenix Theater. Matt has played all over the country. He has opened for all sorts of notable people, and he has dedicated himself to, as he puts it, bringing guitar gospel back to the masses. Tonight we'll get to know him and his band, and later they'll play a set of music. Please welcome to the program Matt Jaffe and his band.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Are you ready to delve into your own soul for the benefit of the viewer?
Absolutely.
Matt Jaffe on
Yeah.
stage. Your live performance roots started back in 2006 at open mics in Fairfax, California. Your first songs were Talking Heads covers, and then, maybe not so coincidentally, you got to know Jerry Harrison of Talking Heads, who went on to produce your first album. This man lives in Fairfax, and so my first question for you is, did you purposefully do those Talking Heads songs with the intention of getting on that man's radar?
Well, no, not at all. I was a big Talking Heads fan since 5th grade, which would have been more like, I don't know what year, but earlier. And he actually lives in Mill Valley, which I just say because I'm from Mill Valley. And it is perfect coincidence that we're both from there. I had seen him a couple of times in town after I was already doing open mics, and he saw me at an open mic, and I'd already interviewed him for something, which I'm not going to go into the whole story because we want to get to stuff that I haven't said before. But I'd stalked him to a hardware store, and he let me interview him.
No. Do not cut out or downplay the stalking, because the stalking is a very important point.
This is really
Because I have
contemporary.
questions about this. So you tell me about this hardware store.
Well, I was trying to do an interview with him for a project for 5th grade. And it was actually about Talking Heads. It was literally about the band Talking Heads. It was no less specific than that. And I sent him a letter, and I didn't hear back. So my dad picked me up from a piano lesson, and we were driving home. And we said, I think that's Jerry Harrison in the car next to us. And my dad, he said, well, should we follow him? And I was a little intrepid at first and a little less intrepid seconds later. I said, yeah, we should follow him. So we followed him to a hardware store, and we got out and said, dude, you didn't respond to my letter.
You didn't say that, did you?
Well, I told him about the letter,
Okay.
and he, recognition flashed across his face, and I went on to interview him.
Now, if I had done the follow to the hardware store, which I absolutely would, even at the ripe old age of 34, which I currently sit at, I wouldn't have brought up the letter, because I would have felt like that was a little too just a little too on the nose. I would have danced around it. I would have established, oh, what a wild coincidence. You're in the Talking Heads. I'm a music fan. We live in the same town. And then later, then you bring up the letter after you've established friendship independent of the letter. But we all have our different stalking techniques.
I've been really lucky. I've met a lot of sort of heroes of mine who generally appeal to baby boomers.
Yeah, the thing with stalking and imposing yourself on others is, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Pretty hit or miss.
The worst they can say is no.
That's a very good attitude, but sometimes we get nervous in life, It's kind of this, trying to get on the radar of your idols is kind of the same as wanting to ask someone on a date. You fear rejection, so you don't do it. But you learn at a young age, just, jump in, follow them. See them, follow them, accost them.
The word here is stalk.
Yeah. Did you do anything else to stalk this man other than the hardware store?
No, we sort of became acquaintances. Friends is a little strong for that period, and he saw me at an open mic. But it was actually one in Mill Valley as well.
Yeah.
And he saw me a couple of times, and we became friends, and he said you should come do some demos, and yeah, it goes from there.
I was just hoping that there were some like tips that you'd gotten from mutual acquaintances. Like he comes and buys his steaks at this grocery store. He likes to get his coffee here.
On Tuesdays, he's out of the house, so you could just go, explore.
Well, look, if there are some of those stories, we can turn the mics off and we can talk about it later on. So you describe meeting this man as a major inflection point in your life and, by extension, your artistic career. What would you say that you learned working with him? Just about anything, because this was like an elevation for you.
It was just sort of like learning how to write songs for other people. Like, I think I still write for myself. If I'm not enjoying it and it's not something I would want to hear, that's a big hurdle to get over. But realizing how to write something that could appeal, and that's not like total pop revisionism. It's just kind of trying to find a balance between my own sort of background and something that can speak to others.
You told me that your early stuff was inspired more by novels and authors than personal experiences, which is not a surprise because you were 15, 16, 17 when you were writing stuff. Not exactly like an encyclopedia of experiences to draw from compared to like a Jerry Harrison, say.
Sure.
Can you recall any of those novels or authors?
Yeah, well, in high school, it was like I have a song that's exactly about Great Gatsby, one that's exactly about Crime and Punishment, one that's exactly about Watchmen. And I like those songs, but they don't speak as much to me now because they don't feel rooted in what I've been through. Unless you consider getting through Crime and Punishment to be having to, been through something. Yeah, I don't know. I was so driven to write songs. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't go to parties. I didn't try to go to parties. I didn't try to drink. I just wanted to write songs. And if I got my homework done, I could go to open mics. And there's nothing better in the world. There's still hardly anything better in the world. You
describe meeting Jerry as a major inflection point. Already said that. But you also describe going to Yale as being another one of those. How so?
Oh, well, it's just the other side of the coin you described. It was like plunged into a world of experience. I think even just not having to drive anywhere allowed me to balance creativity with, new things. And
how long did you stay there before no longer going there?
3 semesters.
3 semesters.
Yeah.
My least favorite thing that people do to you when they write articles about you? They use the phrase college dropout. Can't fucking stand that.
Drop
in the headlines,
baby. Drop
do you know how often they put those in the headlines? It's enough with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think they think it's like a good narrative. I think they think like he was doing this, now he's not doing this. Wow, what a rebellious thing to do, and now he's playing music. But I also think that it totally like misses the major point of like why you stopped going there, which was you had an opportunity. And what was that opportunity?
Well, we got to go on tour with Blues Traveler, and we didn't want to turn that down.
John Popper and the boys.
John Popper.
And the boys.
Plus boys.
Don't forget the boys.
John Popper, boys.
So that happened, and hard to, go to school while also missing it for 2 months.
Yeah, well, what you said is perfect. One of my best friends left because she didn't want to be there anymore, and that's cool too. But I left because I wanted to go do something else. I didn't really have a problem being there.
Well, I don't know. If the tour hadn't happened, do you think you would have stayed?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because some people's experience is like they go to a place like that, which took a lot of work to get into, and people would hear that and be like, wow, holy shit, I can't believe you accomplished getting there. And, my assumption would have been that you got there and you were like, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel right. But that wasn't your experience.
No, I love the people there. I think they're great. I just wanted to do whatever would help me play music.
You do have an album. It was the first album. It was called Blast Off. That was written around this period, correct?
I think we'd recorded it before, actually. But, yeah, that's what we were mainly playing, I think.
Depends on your definition of around, It's like it comes
before.
Yeah. It doesn't have to happen during, just a little bit before.
No, we don't have a mobile record plant.
Blast Off, it was a relationships arc, was a lot of the content on that. Probably a relationship you were in.
Well, I had been in it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all break it. Well, and this isn't meant trying to be persnickety about timing. It's just I think it is important that they're primarily written after.
Well, absolutely.
In songwriting, jargon, whatever, I think after a relationship is quite different than during.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we cut out questions that we think that maybe the content would be boring. It's like singing about a relationship is going well, kind of boring.
Yeah, although in its own way kind of interesting. One of my faves, John Doe, wrote a record that was supposed to all be happy love songs because angsty love songs is sort of like the default for songwriters everywhere. And there's a damn fine reason that it is, but try writing a happy love song that's compelling. That's pretty juicy.
But I think it's like the happy love song where it's like you don't quite have the person yet, but you're probably going to get them. Doesn't have to just be I'm content. It's like I want something, but it seems like it's going to have a happy ending.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, pure contentness is a snooze. But
and to that end, Blast Off.
What's that?
Blast Off was not a snooze.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were not content.
Yeah. I'm just saying John Doe has some songs that suggest sort of relationship contentedness, but have this underlying sort of dread. And I love it.
Isn't that life, though?
It is.
Yeah, it's like in life you're happy, and then the dread just always creeps back in.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Would you like to describe the chapter points of the relationship arc you described in Blast Off?
Well, it started with running down the stairs.
Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, tell us about these stairs. Is it actually a good story?
Well, I was sort of hammered, and you know, it just clicked with this girl, and it wasn't. The clicking wasn't premeditated by the alcohol. It was just sort of nudged by it.
Yeah, alcohol, a social lubricant.
It's
there was already some momentum, but then you drank, and then it started going faster.
And the relationship was immediately terrible, but I thought it'd be but I'm so happy because I got so many songs that I like out of it.
What would you say was terrible about it?
We had nothing in common.
Yeah. Tell us about how little you had in common.
So much less than little. We were driving up to play a gig in Hanover, New Hampshire, and she was fiddling with the knobs, and she came to Imagine Dragons, and she was like, all right. Or
this is actually a very interesting point. Finish telling that story.
That's
because like a moment like that can be a moment of dread where you're like, oh my God, I've learned so much about this person in this moment. I think it might be over. I'll tell you something. There was somebody who once expressed interest in me, and then I found out that they were a Friends fan and not a Seinfeld fan, and I immediately I went soft.
Well, I'm not saying that's what happened with me.
Yeah. I'm just, we're individuals. We're different. That's fine.
Yeah. Seinfeld. I mean, is that even really a comparison? Come on.
Thank you, Matt. That was the right answer. Do you have any other examples of how little you had in common with this person? Outside of not wanting to be alone.
She sang in an acapella group.
Yeah, that's different.
It's wrong.
Yeah.
It's immoral.
How so?
Being, I mean, the song choice is just abysmal, and the performance is worse.
Yeah, in acapella in general.
Yeah.
Boy, you are going to get canceled by the acapella people.
Man.
You're in real trouble.
I think that's exciting.
Shots fired.
Good for you. Good for you. You welcome the fired shots.
I do. I think. I think I'd love.
You'd love to go to war with the acapella community.
Well, that's an easy fight.
Can we please beef with the pentatonics?
I mean, turn away. Turn away the neo-fascists. Those people don't need to be at your shows.
That's true. Sometimes we have to choose, and you have to be honest about how you feel. And in your opinion, a cappella, not a real art form. Not even good.
Well, actually, I'm going to draw a line for myself there. Okay. Art form, I like the idea that art form can be
anything.
Good, bad, and anything in between.
Okay.
Whether it's good or not, I'll side with you 100%.
No, I'm not saying anything. I actually like acapella.
Oh, okay.
You're alone on this island.
Oh, that's okay. I don't mind that either. I'm just saying then that what you're saying, I want to reform those words just a little, take them back to say that I really would hate to say what is art or not, but what I think is good or bad, that's a different story.
Yeah, I was using hyperbole as the interviewer to try to get a response from you, and it worked. So what would you say, is bad about a cappella?
Well,
and feel free, anybody, to chime in. We've hit a topic.
I love to look at how people arrange things. So watching harmonies be built in an a cappella style kind of blow me away sometimes. But that is just me, and I spend a lot of my time being George anyway, so it's probably not acceptable at this time. But there's a lot of value in acapella.
Look at you've intimidated him. He's afraid to even talk about his love of acapella.
Acapella. No, I didn't.
I don't go to war. I'm just telling you where I stand.
Yeah,
and it is
fine.
an island.
But
it was certainly an island at Yale. That is.
Oh, and you made your feelings known at Yale about how acapella is not good.
No, well, maybe I did. I don't know. It's another life. It feels like another life.
I gotta say, when you do so many of these shows, and we've done a lot of them, over 150, when you have someone come on and say something entirely new, it's breathtaking. And to have somebody come on and say, a cappella is bad, it's the first time I've heard that, and I love it, so thank you.
Really?
Yeah. I've never heard of anybody that doesn't like a cappella. I think people like it. I think they like the voices and the peace and the angelic nature of it. And not you, Matt.
That's good.
Yeah, not you. I think it's so good. Can I keep the acapella bit in the final episode?
Sure.
Good. Unapologetic. Yeah. Hey, this is an interesting leapfrog then to another question, not on the outline. What other things do you not like that everybody else likes?
That's the one.
Peace on Earth, probably.
Peace on Earth, yeah.
Yeah, he likes
on that.
Yeah. I don't know.
You're on the right earth for that.
Name some things that everybody else likes.
Puppies?
No, I like puppies. I don't love cats, but that comes from being allergic. And most
absolutely agree.
Yeah, I don't really love cats.
That's fine. You don't have to love cats.
Yeah,
you know what? Maybe you don't even like cats.
But do I like them?
I think that one would say I don't love cats as sort of like a defensive thing. It's like, it's not that I don't like them. It's just that I don't love them. But perhaps you also don't like them.
It
you're
comes
allergic.
from allergies. It comes from allergies.
And so that to me is the asterisk, which makes it acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
If anything else comes up that historically has been an unpopular opinion that you've had in terms of taste.
I don't think... Are we living in the golden age of TV?
No. Yes. TV?
I don't know. I haven't watched an episode of Game of Thrones or of Breaking Bad, so I don't really know. I can't say whether I like them or love them or not.
You're turned off by the whole thing of television.
Exactly. That's what it is. Yeah.
What do you think you don't like about television?
I don't dislike television. I just don't like the ones that I know are going to take a lot of my time.
Yeah. So interesting.
That's not even really to this point.
Maybe it is. Maybe everybody likes sitting down and watching television for hours and hours and hours.
Oh no, I like that.
Well, what's your opinion here? You just don't like. You don't like the possibility that these shows that everyone likes are good, but you haven't watched them yourself.
I think that Matthew McConaughey is better than Bradley Cooper. There, I said it.
Okay, this is good. Just keep that sort of stuff coming throughout the episode. We've never discussed Matthew McConaughey on this show, so again,
it's a shame.
It's first.
Probably Bradley Cooper. Either.
Maybe the show would be better if we discussed Matthew McConaughey.
Should we get them on?
It's the McConaissance.
Now we're getting to your soul. I've never seen an interview posted where you use that phrase before, but it feels like prime Matt Jaffe. Okay, so you had nothing in common with this young woman. How did that relationship end? Explosively or?
Oh, no.
No.
I don't think a relationship with that, for me, a relationship with that little actual emotional connection could end explosively. It just sort of ended, and we were still in running some of the same circles, and To quote a Seinfeld, it was the first perfectly, mutually amicable breakup.
Yeah, it was like when Jerry was dating Janine Garofalo.
Exactly.
They sat down at the table. They said,
I hate you.
exactly. And thank you so much, and we'll see you later.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that she has a good life.
Me too.
Yeah. God bless her. All right. So you went on tour, and back to the real episode now. And you went on tour, and what a thing that was with John Popper and the boys. And you were homesick. Am I correct when I say that you were homesick?
What?
You were homesick when you were on that tour with John Popper and the boys.
Homesick?
Yeah, homesick. I believe, I hate to quote you from the email, Matt Jaffe, but this coincided with a great deal of homesickness that drove me to write much of my second album. You continued.
Oh.
Infused, maybe this is a lie, just like written to fill articles about you, but you continue. Infused with both California dreaming and a newfound love for blues and cowpunk, it documents via a fantastical post-apocalyptic narrative, a departure because of a mythological inferno, and a returning due to homesickness.
I'm sorry, I kind of mixed up the layout of this email. It was really meant to be homesickness whilst in Connecticut.
Which is where Yale is.
Yes.
Yeah, not everybody knows that.
I don't like saying I went to Yale.
Well, sorry.
It's out there.
It's out there now.
More of a Harvard guy, or what?
No, he's embarrassed by the Ivy League nature of it.
I'm more of a Yale construction gear guy.
Yeah, there's a level of pretentiousness that comes with going to one of those sort of universities, and you don't want to be associated with that.
No, it just skews the narrative. As you said yourself earlier, that I didn't drop out. I just had a new direction, and in a casual conversation, it's tough to suggest that to people.
Isn't that what's frustrating about press, though, about yourself? The narrative?
There's Yale and there's Jerry Harrison.
Yeah. And boy, have we zeroed in on both of those in this so far.
Oh, that's okay.
I mean, it's tough, though, from let me speak from the position of the enemy, the one who writes these articles and conducts these interviews. It's like your position is, I'm just a guy that wants to play some music. And also, you probably wouldn't say this, but I'd like to be famous and play to a lot of people. That would be kind of cool, too.
I'd say that.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Some people are afraid of saying that. They're like, no, I just want to do it for the art. But you strike me as somebody who would be just fine being famous.
Yeah, no, yeah. I do it for the art. I feel strongly that that's true. And I tell people all the time that if I wasn't performing, I would still be writing songs. But if I wasn't writing songs, I probably wouldn't be performing.
What would be like the nuanced take on you that you would like to see come across that is greater than just like, I'm just a guy with a guitar playing music?
The nuanced take.
Well, the reconnaissance, that to me, that like sums a version of you up that I don't get from any other articles. I mean, obviously it's hard to be like, yeah, I'm a guy who does clever wordplay. And I have a laid-back sense of humor, but so it's a dumb question on one hand, but I do feel like every article I've read about you has missed the mark fundamentally. Do you feel that way? Yeah,
I think I'm. I think I'm more into movies than people ever write about. Like I want my songs to just be about movies all the time. Be about movies, or to be little 3-minute movies or 5-minute movies? Just about them. I can't write movies. I'll just say what they're about, and then people say, "Oh, that's Magnolia. Oh, that's Phantom Thread." Then I'll say, "All right." Is that something that actually happened, or are you just doing a bit? No, it's those are in progress. Yeah. Yeah. Do you like John Bryan's music? John Bryan. I don't know John Bryan. Oh, come on, man. He did the music for Magnolia. Come on, man. Oh, no. Amy Mann did the music for Magnolia. She did some songs for Magnolia, but so did John Bryan. Well, when you buy the record on iTunes, I downloaded Amy Mann. For free. Amy Mann is the album artist. As anyone who is totally anal about their iTunes library knows, there is a field that is album artist.
Why don't we put a pin in that, and we come back to it after we do some research. Do you curate your iTunes library with some degree of seriousness?
With an iron fist and a velvet glove.
Is that so?
Yes.
How many songs you got?
I have no idea.
How many days you got?
Oh, it's got to be like 16 or something.
All right, stop. What the hell does that mean?
Tom Gaffey, that's easy.
How many days you got?
Yeah, it means that if you were to push play from the first song, how many days worth of music do you have until it gets to the last song? 16 days. Do the math, my friend.
What is that? Seems a little weak. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but damn, I always thought, in the apocalyptic dream, you'd want to have at least a year's worth of material so that you could live 10 years without hearing.
Well, no,
I consider myself weak. I've sacrificed strength for songwriting too.
Okay, no, I agree with that. That's spectacular.
Are you thankful that you were born during this era where a weak man can survive as opposed to be killed?
I really am.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sound comical saying this because I really am. I don't think the life I'm living would be at all possible like 80 years ago.
16 days is actually quite good, Tom Gaffey. I'm going to stand up for my new friend Matt Jaffe here, and let me tell you why. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
Let me tell you why.
Said 5 minutes a song.
Hey, come on, man.
Okay.
If you're going to issue
that's 12 songs an hour.
If you're going
Times
to
24.
attack a man's iTunes library, you have to at least allow a rebuttal. And I am going to rebut on behalf of my friend Matt Jaffe. And the rebuttal is as follows. You put that calculator away. Here's the rebuttal.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
This man doesn't just put anything in his iTunes library.
Okay.
Am I correct when I say that?
That is very correct.
This is heavily curated, and what Matt Jaffe would like to do is be able to push random, all songs in this playlist, push random, and not have to skip a single song, and that is how curated it is. And when you think about 16 days of curated material,
Of non-skipping?
that's fucking insanity.
Yeah.
Back to the second album. Are you feeling content on the
I'm
iTunes thing?
absolutely happy with 16 days.
It's very good,
Yeah,
curated
it's
material.
Good. Can I'll
No, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say that as soon as I'm done, I'm going to get the calculator out and figure out how many songs is that exactly. So what are we, just before we move on, is that an average of 6 minutes a tune?
Oh, I think it's way less. I
less.
like songs that are like 3 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think
Bravo,
it's way
that's
less.
very 60s of you.
He likes,
Good,
well, I
yeah.
mean, this is a very 60s man.
I agree. Yeah, good.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about that second album as we veer wildly from focused to not?
Well, it was a shitstorm. I mean, I decided to
kind of like the last 10 minutes of this interview. Go ahead.
I decided to produce it myself, and that wasn't terrible, but I did everything way too fast. I was frenetic and frenzied and fried.
Well, sure. Production-wise, yes, all that stuff. But let's talk about the fantastical post-apocalyptic narrative.
Well, it's a terrible idea to sort of to take advantage or try to capitalize on natural disaster or disaster of any kind. So this came before the actual destruction by wildfire of Sonoma and Napa. I just thought this was great images, Hellhounds of Alcatraz, Fire on the Freeway. There are a few others, but those two suggest it by title the best.
Was this like you transferring like stuff you were feeling on the inside to the environment via songwriting? Did you want to see the world burn? Were you feeling a lot of angstiness?
No, I just think it's angstiness, that's another question, but I just think it's imagery that spoke to me, and it finagled its way into many of the tunes.
Do you feel like if you were in like a movie, because you like these songs to be considered movies, or you'd like to be asked about that, do you feel like if you, Matt Jaffe, were in a movie, you'd be a hero or a villain?
Well, have you guys seen Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid? This is actually just what came to mind first. It has nothing to do with wanting to be Dylan. I love Dylan, but I try to be my own dude. But Dylan in that movie, it's perfect. Like he's he's there, he impacts the narrative, but he's not really a main character. And he wrote the soundtrack, and I know that is not within the diegesis
Dylan
of
was
the film,
playing
but it's
Alias
important.
is his name. Alias.
He was playing kind of the Greek chorus of it, as a matter of fact. He was the
Sure,
one that
yeah.
observed the entire. Yeah, correct.
I guess 3 strangers are looking to kill a man. All 3 are killed in the subsequent shootout, helped by another stranger called Alias, Bob Dylan, who kills one of them with a knife through the neck. Does this resonate at all?
I don't want to do that last bit.
You like being on the sidelines. Do you think the fact that it was Bob Dylan is that what attracts you to this character, or you
sure,
like,
yeah, but that's honestly not why I'm bringing this up. I'm not that outgoing, and I'm not that. I try to take in. I wish I was less talkative.
No, it makes perfect sense, actually. As I think back on this, you would rather play almost the chorus. You'd rather be the observer watching and writing and putting it back out. This is how I see it.
I don't love the word sidelines. That
Yeah.
suggests that you wouldn't be the good Samaritan, and that you'd. But I guess based on that summary, that Alias does actually intervene. And I like that idea of sort of, the Star Trek Prime Directive, that you're sort of out there and you're exploring, and that's great, but you don't really intervene unless you need to. And
I mean, I think maybe some overlap I have with you is I think that there's like something really cool in life about like getting to observe the whole scene, but not necessarily be in the scene, so that you can have like a full appreciation for it. So what I mean is like conflict between people. Really fascinating to watch that. Really fascinating to be on the periphery of that, but not be involved. You know what I mean? So you're kind of not good, not bad. You're kind of in God mode. And that's really what you want. You would like to just kind of be sailing over, flying over the scene, looking at the whole thing.
I don't know if that's what I'd want, but I think it's what I get.
Yeah. God mode.
Beast mode.
Sicko mode.
Airplane mode.
We'll end on that.
Maybe more like Jason
A la mode?
Robards. So Jason Robards plays a part in how the West. Once Upon a Time in the West.
Oh,
And he's got the part that you want to be in. He's watching the whole thing. He knows what's going down. He's watching every move, and he knows it's all what's going to come about and how it's going to go. And in the end, he just kind of skates on the whole situation, and it's a great way to do it.
I don't remember which character he is, but that movie haunts me.
Yeah, Far Out, good film. Yeah.
I don't know, because here's the thing. Like in life, like I've definitely been the bad guy, and I've felt like I've been the good guy. I just really like being a non-entity. I like just kind of like watching and not even intervening, just like getting to be in the room, but not being on either side of it.
So the finale of Seinfeld.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, I identified with those people in that show, absolutely. But yeah, you want to float over.
Again, not necessarily what I want, but sure.
I'm trying to put a button on what you're saying. I don't know if you can do this for me. I feel like we haven't fully explained what the Alias character played by Bob Dylan does and why that appeals to you. And we can move on.
I thought he was a worm.
You thought he was a... Wow, that's fighting words.
He might be a worm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is that okay for him, Tom Gaffey, to call you a worm?
No, not
Sure.
Matt.
Well, sure, but Matt is that character in real life.
Yeah, I would disagree there, I think.
Well, that's what Matt said.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. I don't see you living a dusty life like that. I don't think you'd be comfortable hiding in those dusty corners and that darkness, and I don't think you'd be slipping the knife as quickly as he could in the end. I mean, maybe you can. I don't know. You just said that you're saying that you've given your physical strength over to writing music. So as an observer, Far Out, that's the way to go.
I got another one. Have you guys seen Magnolia?
I haven't seen Magnolia.
I have.
Do you know the Philip Seymour Hoffman character?
Describe it for the people who haven't.
He plays a hospice nurse who's taking care of this kind of a guy who's about to die from cancer, like just really on his deathbed. and he's trying to be professional, and like he's kind of just trying to do his job, and he's sort of trying to not get invested, but then like this guy is so like he's so desperate for final wishes of reconciliation with certain family members who Philip Seymour Hoffman knows to be really terrible people, but he sort of gives in to the vulnerability of the man he's taking care of, and sort of intervenes anyway. And that's sort of different than Good Samaritan to me. That's who I want to be.
I think we're on the cusp of something very interesting here.
I don't know. I've dozens of tangents like this. So
well, I think it kind of illuminates. Well, I mean, feel free if you have another one you want to share, popular culture that can inform us about you. But I don't know. I
mean, that's something right there. If you want something about me, is that I see myself through the lens of other pop culture that I consume, and I find it very challenging to really be emotional from person to person, and that often it takes the filter of a song or a flick or a poem to like get me to emote.
So there was a Stephen King story that we were on the road. we were on the road moving. These people were running from the FBI, and a friend of mine and I were driving their household goods to Missouri, where they were hiding. And she was reading to me as we were driving, and she read this Stephen King story.
I love how just like nonchalantly you started that story, but please continue.
Well, all right. So she writes this. The crux of the story is that there is this lady who's in a theater group. She falls in love with, everybody falls in love with this one guy who's a leading man, but none of them can figure this guy out. They all go out with him, and there's nothing to him, except for this one lady who realizes, oh, I get it. So every time she goes out with him, she writes a part for him, and he does the part for her, and he becomes he becomes the character that is that part of literature, and he becomes the story himself, and they finally are able to make their relationship blossom. So he is a vessel waiting to be the story. And I find there's a little bit of a connection here. You're like this open vessel, and you're living through your cultural experiences, and from there you're actually able to put it back out. You're writing songs from that, and being then becoming the creator himself. This man became the part. You were becoming the writer. You're actually becoming the author.
I think that's a really brilliant point.
Well, I think it's semi-close.
I wonder if it plays into something you said to me earlier, which is, I said, sit down, relax. And you were like, can't do that. I don't like to relax. You think that there is some overlap here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I am fearful of missing things. And I guess even like the kid in Almost Famous is like someone who would probably be the sort of best example of this.
Let's say somebody hasn't seen the film.
Well, he's just a kid who is gets a job writing for Rolling Stone and goes on tour with a band and does have his own personal attachments and connections, but he's like sort of supposed to be neutral in writing this article and putting it back out. That's not what I do specifically, and meek as I am, I think he's meeker. But yeah, the idea that you're kind of there to be, yeah, a vessel is a beautiful word for it. I love that. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, in terms of like occupational analogy, I think that's a strong one. In terms of like disposition, there are others that I find stronger, I would say.
What's the strongest?
Rorschach.
How so?
Well, I'm not sure. I think
you have an idea.
I mean, I think I get a lot from Seinfeld. Like, I get a lot from them. I wouldn't want to admit it. Frankly, I think wanting to take in stuff and like constantly sort of trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle in my head, like makes me a little bit icier than I'd want to be if I was somebody else.
How do you think you would do then with like 6 months of isolation with no pop culture input?
What do I have with me?
A guitar, a notepad, a pen.
What are the meals like?
Sufficient, not luxurious.
Vegetarian option?
Whatever your needs are dietarily, we will satisfy those.
I mean, there's so many more questions, but I actually
Ask
think,
me them.
Do I get to see friends?
No, absolutely not.
Desert island, like solitary confinement style room?
You're comfortable.
Shawshank Redemption?
You're comfortable. There are others. You're not allowed to talk to them because that would in a roundabout way, culture gotten from them would seep into you. The idea
Can
here,
we just talk about the weather?
the weather is neutral. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. It's fine. There is some,
No, I mean with these people. Can I just have, you know?
I don't know. I'm trying to
pleasantries?
see what happens here in my social experiment where you, who just described yourself as somebody who is like heavily influenced by pop culture, and you really frame things, it seems, through your experience with it. I'm just curious, like, what happens when we just like turn that off? What happens to Matt Jaffe? You know?
I mean, I think I would find juice.
You do.
I really do. I mean,
Inside yourself, perhaps.
It's tough. Yeah, I do. I think I have a lot of stuff stored away, and I actually think that there's a tipping point where there's diminishing returns from how much you consume, and that having to dig would be its own incredible battle. It's tough to say 6 months, although whether it's 3 or
just
6.
the first thing that came up. You know, we
totally.
can negotiate that.
Yeah.
No, we can do 16 days.
That's too short. Do you ever do the like the water pods, isolation tanks? You know, where you're
Oh,
alone?
those look great, though.
Yeah. Well, you could start there
Yeah.
if you want. You know, this is an
Guitar-
offer we can follow.
guitar in the
we can-
water pod.
No, that. Here's something we can follow up on this later. But if you want, I'll pay for your first water pod, and we can just see what happens. Because it's like a glimpse, you know. I
right.
don't know. I feel like there's something to be said about Matt Jaffe, just like totally in isolation. What happens to him at that point?
You're talking about
The
the,
world-
sensory deprivation?
Yeah,
tanks?
exactly. People pay to have that experience, and I'm going to pay for him to have that
the world
experience.
would be a better place.
Yeah. Oh no, just for an hour, not forever. Just for an hour.
Or that
16
hour.
days.
Yeah. We'll put a pin in it. We'll come back to it. Do you see a therapist?
No, I don't.
Yeah. Well, this is a good substitute for that.
You may have to after.
I think it'd be a great idea. I think it's way over stigmatized.
Oh, absolutely. I think I should too, but I don't.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. Hey, you just keep busy from morning
I mean,
until bed,
like,
right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I really do, and I think music is my therapy. Like, that sounds corny as hell, but it's true. It makes me feel at peace. It really
catharsis.
does, yeah.
Would you say the Disaster album is a hopeful album?
I've only been hopeful lately. I want songs about hope. Alejandro Escovedo changed me about this. His songs are hopeful and they're beautiful, and I want to be that. I cut my teeth on so much early Elvis Costello, which is all pins and needles and perhaps borderline misogyny and just a lot of angst. And I don't want. I never wanted the borderline misogyny, but the angst is. Like, again, sort of, I was saying, like, that the unhappy relationship is such a default thing. And we don't need to get back into the whole, you know, what makes a good song, because it's all kinds of things. But I'm really feeling a lot of hope in music right now, and despair, like, doesn't have as much home with me anymore.
So you didn't feel great for a while, right?
Well, this gets into a whole sort of thing that's in that email, but
It's funny that you should mention that.
I don't know if
the
you want-
final inflection. Funny you should mention that, Matt, because the final inflection
your
point
team.
in your life. We are on the same team. The final inflection point in your life thus far that you shared happened very recently, and there's like a dramatic climax to this that is well, it involves a destroyed guitar, because I feel like for all the bullshitting we're doing tonight, and we're doing quite a bit of it, and I do think it's illuminating like who you are as a person, but I feel like this experience is like a really like defining one.
yeah, well, I kind of call going to college, and this is like, I would never be the same before and after those two things. So you really want like a whole rundown?
I want the most detailed rundown, because to me, honestly, just between us, this is like the worst thing, but we're sharing our true selves here tonight. When I saw this in the email, I was like, oh, okay, this will be a good episode.
I'll say I'd like to exploit this. You said some people don't want to even want to admit that they'd want to be famous. I'll admit I would exploit this to be famous.
Yeah.
I'm proud of what I do. I'd like it to be better known.
And you know what? This is great because you turn a negative, perhaps you're near death, into a positive.
I'm going to try to get to it. It's sort of bullet points. I left school, and I was on... We had a show at the Sweetwater right before, and then I jammed over to the East Coast, and I went on tour with a guy, a solo tour. In 2 weeks, we went from Brooklyn to Chicago to D.C., back up to New York City. And on this tour, he picked up some kind of flu virus, flu-ish virus, I should say. And sorry, that Mi Pueblo is really coming back to haunt me at the worst time.
That or this is just a really emotional story for you.
It is, but again, emotion through pop culture. So this won't get me as teary-eyed as it deserves to. But
it's important to experience emotion, but not enough to where it's like unbecoming. It's a free brand tip for you, Matt. Please continue.
See, I don't know. All right.
Let's come back to that.
Moving on. All right. Yeah, so anyway, we picked up... He got it first. We're in Westchester, Pennsylvania. He couldn't even perform that show because he was so sick. I drove him back to his apartment in Jersey City. I slept in this terrible, chilly March... apartment with the window open and like these two guys doing hookah next to me for till 4 a.m. And I got the virus. So I was going to see my girlfriend in New Haven, and I felt terrible during the last show in Montclair, New Jersey. I just felt terrible. I was shuddering. I had all these layers on me. And I got up there on the train and I felt nauseous. I hadn't seen her in a couple of months, so I was really sad that I felt so bad, but I just felt terrible. Nauseous, dizzy. I was pretty sure I was going to throw up. So, anyway, I get there, I say, okay, I'll just sleep this off. It'll be cool. Wake up the next morning, still feel this way. Go to the bathroom to get a drink of water. And perhaps, should I need to spew... in the parlance of Wayne's World, and which I did not, but I did pass out, presumably from this flu-ish virus, symptoms related to it, and I hit my head on the floor, and like most bathrooms, it was not a shag rug, it was tile, so not a great way to go. So anyway, I woke up disoriented, 5 minutes later or something. She said it was about that time, and I crawl back into the dorm room on my hands and knees, and I'm totally not lucid. So she calls 911. They come to get me. She lives on the top floor of this really windy and labyrinthine old Gothic building, probably 5th floor. So anyway, they come and get me, and they put me in one of those chairs that secures your neck, right? And we're gonna go down the elevator, and the elevator breaks. This doesn't even really matter in the story, but it's just one of those
it's the hero's journey. Every step matters.
Yeah, and this is certainly, if we're talking about the Odysseus sort of downward arc of the. Him lying on whatever the hell godforsaken island that is, at the lowest of lows. This is certainly not it. This is just the beginning of my fall from, if not grace, something like it. And anyway, so they get stuck. They get me to the ER, pretty much fine. Ask me questions. I'm still pretty loopy. I complain about chest pain. No, there's no reason I should have chest pain. But I do tell them about this 2-week trip, which involves a lot of driving from New York to Chicago and back. So they say, oh, well, they even had, this was a moment out of a movie that I was in one of those little ER sort of closeted in or, just curtained in little areas. And they bring 6 medical graduate students in, when they're, here's another Seinfeld episode, where Kramer's doing the gonorrhea thing. you know.
What's he doing for the audience members who haven't seen it?
Well, Kramer with the, you know, on the recommendation of his friend Mickey is, you know, acting out various diseases, and he gets gonorrhea. Well, I think Mickey gets gonorrhea, and he steals that that disease from him.
So they're doing an acting thing where they're like trying to like act in front of people, and like, you know, it's like, here are my symptoms, and then like the doctors are supposed to diagnose them. So anyway, to your point.
Anyway, to my point, they say, well, complaining about chest pain. Was sitting in a car for a long time. Probably blood clot started in the leg, got up to the lungs, pulmonary embolism, which I don't mean to disparage the knowledge of anybody listening or present, but I had no idea what that was. So pulmonary embolism, just a blood clot in your lung. So anyway, I had hit my head, but they didn't take that into account in this diagnosis. So they started giving me an anticoagulant, which again is a blood thinner. That's another thing I didn't know till after, when it became part of my lifelong fun job. And one with a super long half-life. So anyway, these two things together, hitting my head, coupled with the misdiagnosis, led to a cerebral hemorrhage, bleeding on the brain. Anyway, not good. You don't want that. Leads to permanent brain damage. So anyway.
So that's like the inciting incident right there, right? I mean, so now this has happened. Like the bomb has been basically set.
It's more complicated still, though.
Okay.
They don't diagnose this. I'm like keeled over for a couple days on end in unbearable head pain. You know, I don't mean to sound melodramatic about this, but it is unbearable pain.
You were bleeding on the brain.
Yeah.
I think that you can be excused for any hyperbole.
I like being stoic, Jim.
Yeah,
I like being stoic.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir.
But my sister was there, and my sister had come down from Boston, and my girlfriend was there, and they're like, well, this seems pretty bad, but it's a hospital, whatever. And that's your first mistake. So my mom, who was in the Bay Area, that's where we're from, she, after a couple days of me being in the hospital, she decides to fly out. You know, one of her two kids is in the hospital, and it's sort of unclear what's going on. That's what you do, I guess, if you can. And she gets out there, and she sees that I'm in this unbearable pain. She knows that I'm stoic and feels that her assessment of my situation is more clear-eyed than that of the staff. You know, at this point, I'm not in the ER. I'm in an outpatient ward. And anyway, so this is really the amazing thing, is that she went to college with a guy who worked at that hospital. I forget if he's exactly a senior MD or an administrator or what, but he, knowing her, demands that they give me an MRI immediately, which at his demand they do, discover their mistake, and perform an emergency craniotomy, which is basically just cutting out a chunk of your skull well, depends, but for me it was about this big, popping that out.
To the audio listener, that's how big?
Latka
4
sized.
inches by 4 inches?
Sure, yeah. And they drain your blood, and then they actually thought they might have to put a helmet on me for like a year because the brain might not reduce swelling. Lucky for me, it did. Popped my skull back in. There are a few titanium clamps that are permanently in my head, and they sewed me back up with for about a week or something. It was actually staples, which are like the more intense version of stitches. Like they're literally staples holding your skin together, and it's a scar that runs from about here all the way down to here, and you can probably still see it because my hair's pretty short right now.
How do you feel about that scar?
I think it's badass, man.
Okay, good. Well, then I'm glad that you feel that way, because in the performance, one can see it. Can't see it now because you have the headphones on.
Right. No, I like getting my hair cut, and I think it's cool. My barber, actually, who I should give a shout out to, he's a great guy, Craig. He actually does a little extra like shaving around the scar. It would be, I suppose, nude even without that, but he shaves it a little extra to exacerbate the image.
Well, that's some real behind the curtain stuff right there.
I'm here to get real.
Thank you. Does he do that at your instruction?
No, he was the first one to do it.
Do you say to him, I really want people to see this?
No, he suggested it. He is much more stylish than I. And it took me a while to go in there because once you've had staples all over your head, you don't exactly want to be near other sharp objects voluntarily. So my hair was pretty long, and I was like, well, could you be careful? And a couple cuts later, he's like, well, you have this scar. It's going to be there. Let's dress it up.
Let's have some fun with it, he said.
Basically, yeah.
You described this just a minute ago as like now a lifelong thing.
Yes. So that's like the first chapter. They performed this craniotomy. Fair recovery time before I was even half normal again. They, going through the operation, they weren't sure if I was going to wake up myself,
What year was this?
This was 2015.
Okay.
And, the tricky part about it was the blood thinner because they, the longer that you wait to perform the operation, the more dangerous or the more chance that you have irreparable, or, irrevocable brain damage. But the less time you wait, the more dangerous it is because the less the anticoagulant has diffused or worn off, I should say. So anyway, I woke up. I'm pretty normal still, I think, or normal for who I was.
Yeah, you don't feel like you changed too much?
Yeah, I don't feel like I do. I mean, physiologically, there's some things. I feel mostly like myself, but this relates to what's coming next. Once you've had these, truly traumatic brain events, it's hard to know what your normal is. It really is. There's no perfectly scientific way of doing it. Alex knew me before and after. My parents certainly did. Other friends, but I don't know. How do you gauge it? There's no control group per se. Anyway, so to go off what you said, I recovered. I was doing well. We went on the Blues Traveler tour during the next 6 months or so. And then about a year later, during the Warriors, Oklahoma City Thunder, Western Conference Finals, 7-game match that led to the Warriors getting to the finals and Draymond's suspension and the Cavs winning in 7, which of course led to Kevin Durant coming here and forming this sick mode dynasty.
Sicko mode.
Sicko. Alla mode. I'm sorry. I don't know that one. I know the Michael Moore movie Sicko, but
Sicko mode is a very popular song.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's got an NBA player in it or something.
The video or the song?
I don't know.
Sicko Mode by Travis Scott.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know any songs, but anyway.
Sorry.
During this, the Warriors were down 3-1. I had a seizure. I was going upstairs to get a pair of socks, and boom. And anyway, I've scarring on my brain that's similar to that, dare I say, latke-sized piece of my brain that was impacted by this. And a seizure is just a bunch of electrical stuff going on, and when you got a big patch of scar, it sure doesn't help. So I had one. I've been on medications. I've had a couple others. It's a bummer, man. It really is. I feel like such a lucky person. I grew up on the, in the foothills of Mount Tam and got to mountain bike and meet Jerry Harrison and play guitar. So I'm a really lucky guy, but this is a bummer. And most recently I had a seizure in the middle of a gig, and for those unfamiliar, you tense up and all your muscles just clench, and my thigh and calf muscles just launched me across this room, and this guitar that I've written many songs on, performed countless hours with, it got wedged between me and a table, and quite a few repair guys have called it unfixable, and that's too bad. you know.
So you were performing in front of a crowd?
It was like a bar, so not a super public way of well, it's a very public thing when that happens in any kind of public place. But I'd rather have that happen than like our gig at Slim's last year.
But you were okay.
Yeah,
your guitar was not okay.
No, not okay. Yeah.
And that was a month and a half ago. That
About a
last
month
seizure.
and a half. Yeah, and I should be able to drive again on my birthday. It happened on January 20th, and my birthday is April 20th, and they give you sort of a 3-month probation.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this heavily influenced the new album.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's meant to be more introspective and measured, and I don't know. Like I think this whole experience gives me. A friend of mine who has had a couple bouts of cancer, and she's about my age. Well, yeah, she's my age. You know, weren't born at the same second, but we're talking around time.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I mean, generally it's acceptable if you were born within a year of each other,
Yeah.
And there's overlapping time period,
Yeah.
you can say that you're the same age.
Did you know that LeBron James and Steph Curry were born in the same hospital?
I did not, but sounds like you know that. And now, so many of us do.
Are they the same age?
No. But yeah, she's had a couple bouts with cancer, and we've talked how, like, you want to have this thing where it's like, all right, now I'm zen. You know? Maybe some people have that. I'm not zen. I am not zen. I think it's endowed me with, like, a little bit of extra hope that I may have gotten through the worst thing in my life. I don't know. I don't know. I hope so. It seems awfully sort of like jinxing yourself to say such a thing, but I may have gotten through the worst thing in my life. And I think that gives me some empowerment and some some sort of devil may care in like approaching what I want to do, or pursuing what I want to do. And I think it gives me sort of self-confidence in not being the loudest band at the gig.
Yeah, because the sound of this album changed in addition to the content. You know, you look at your first album, it's all other people's stories.
Yeah.
And this new album, what's this new album called?
It's called The Spirit Catches You.
Spirit Catch. And this is already out, this album?
It is. It came out in November.
Yeah, and so, you know, would you say this is your third full length?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what a jump in 10 years-ish of being a musician. First album was pretty much all everybody else's stories, and this album is a lot more your own story.
Yeah, I think so. I really love where it got. I'm so happy with the songs, and the guy who produced it, his name is James DePreto. His name is James. And he did such a good job, and that's not really what we're talking about. We're not really talking about the production, except...
God, Matt, I'm so thankful that you're here. So many people don't get that.
Yeah, except that, and this is something I did write in the email, trying to be cognizant of what we're really trying to get at. Just that the texture does allow that voice to get through. Like the production of the prior two records, how could I sing some of those songs? Like, there's a purely acoustic song on there, and one called "Rumors of Your Ghost" that like they make me feel the way that I feel when I think about this stuff.
And this is on the new album.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you came close to death?
I don't feel that way. I was totally out of it. I've been alive the whole time. Everybody around me thinks that, though.
Because 3 songs reference death in the title. On this album. One of them is what you just mentioned, Rumors of Your Ghost, and then Dancing with Death, and then Raise the Dead.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, that's not a gotcha question. I'm just curious, how do those songs deal with death?
It's funny what you say, feel.
Yeah.
Like I, from a more intellectual place, feel that or understand where I was, that my future was uncertain. If my mom hadn't happened to have gone to school with this guy and hadn't happened to flown across country early enough, I would be dead. I mean, that's like an amazing coincidence.
That's mom.
Yeah, it is. I mean, she's a hero.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't mean just for me. She's a great person, but this was great for me.
This one happened to work out pretty well for you.
I don't want to, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but this one is pretty.
You've done a lot of great things, but also you're still alive. It's not bad.
She gave me life, and then she
sustained it.
There's an insurance policy. So I understand that. I understand that, but the word I keep leaning towards but don't want to say is feel, because I didn't feel it. I was clutching my head in pain, like, and then the next thing I know, I'm like staying at someone's house in New Haven, like with a something wrapped around my head to keep like my head from falling apart, like literally, and I'm like, it's almost Easter, like I'm eating a lot of candy this year. Those Reese's eggs are pretty cool, man. And I don't know. I feel haunted by it, but I don't think I felt that immediate, the gravity of it. I didn't feel that. My mom and my sister and my dad and my girlfriend, they felt it. They were traumatized in a very immediate way by it.
And
they were there.
There's some.
I wasn't there.
No,
I wasn't.
You were kind of like we discussed in God mode, No, you were. I actually think there's some overlap here between the earlier conversation, and that is that they felt the emotion, and you watched them feel the emotion, and then that made you sort of be like, oh fuck, like I guess I did come close to death.
But my parents don't like to talk about it. I mean, if we really want to tie everything together, my dad doesn't even like that I get this haircut because he sees the scar. I swear to God, that's the reason he doesn't want me to get such a close haircut.
Yeah,
like it's such an acute thing for them. For me, it's more like an aura.
Yeah, it's like you were the ghost, or you were like watching yourself in that hospital bed, and you weren't actually having to be a participant. You were sort of like, I mean, he's gonna live. It'll be fine. Here he is sitting at this table.
It's absolutely weird for me to think that something has happened in my life that if it was in a movie, I wouldn't want to watch that scene where that operation is performed. Like, that's such a trippy thing for me.
Did that experience shift like how you dealt with things emotionally, you think? Because earlier I made kind of a quip, which you seem to disagree with, which had to do with emotion. And I was like, you don't want to have too much emotion because that's unbecoming. Just the right amount. Because you strike me as somebody who like plays it cool.
I wish I didn't. I swear to you, I wish I didn't. I wish I could just be more genuine. I'm trying to get better at like saying when I appreciate someone that I do.
Yeah, and that's not an insult when I say that. And when I say that, it's not that I think that you're phony or that you're disingenuous. You may be. Yeah.
The thumbs.
You'll have to remind me.
The guy who
is this a Seinfeld reference?
Who's trying to fix his car, the guy.
Explain it to the audience.
No,
obviously, Matt. Obviously, Matt. I get it because I'm a Seinfeld super fan. I get every Seinfeld reference, but there are so many people who don't listen to it, or who don't watch it.
Well, there's just a guy who Jerry calls phony.
Yeah,
and it doesn't really relate.
No, it does because we've been talking about Seinfeld the whole time.
Well, I get it. Everything I get is from like Seinfeld and Lord of the Rings, and then a few bands who I dig.
Yeah,
there's nothing else.
And
maybe a little Star Trek.
No, actually, I should be honest that I'm a Star Wars guy, and that I just happen to know about and appreciate the concept. Yeah.
But do you feel like this shifted your emotions or your just like way of looking at life at all?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I just somehow know deep down I'm not the same person. If anything, and this is tough to admit, but if anything, I think I find like emotional things a little like tougher to get to. I find like I'm not as I feel like the operation though it didn't leave me like totally debilitated or handicapped. Like thank God I still knew how to play a D chord. I mean, there's a guitar with me there in the ICU, but it left me like a little more detached. And I hate to say that, like I really do. I struggle from a lot of like physiological sort of tension in my head, and like there are a couple of things that give me release from that, and like music and exercise are a couple of them. And like I think it gives me a little less patience for like sort of day-to-day sort of human stuff. And I hate to say that, like I'm trying to work at it. That's why I'm trying to have routines, and maybe therapy, maybe the sensory deprivation tank. And I'm not even joking there.
I will Venmo you that money.
I will accept
That is
it.
not a joke.
Just find the proper emojis.
Yeah.
I don't know, like
I'll
diet
explain to you
things.
after the show.
Like diet thing. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm trying to. I feel a little adrift and a little lost, and I'm happy about a lot of things. This new medication is better. I'm so grateful for so many things, but how to turn that gratitude into like being the human that I want to be, who like just like bonds. I don't know how to do that.
I
all the
identify
time.
with like 90% of what you just said in the last minute. I'm curious, do you feel like you cry less than you did before the incident?
It's with a lot of infrequency to begin with.
Yeah. Would it be for you like in every couple year, maybe?
Yeah, it's a
Maybe.
couple books and a couple movies that do it to me.
Yeah.
And then, admittedly, there have been a couple times recently where I've broken down.
Yeah. You know, sometimes you just have to have that during periods of your life in order to get through, you know?
Yeah. Here's something. Zero sarcasm in this. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love breaking down.
Yeah.
With the right person there, it's like...
It's being human.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
actually where you're really, really letting your humanity out.
It's a real
sharing it.
release, yeah. It's a
Yeah.
real release.
I feel like you and me, Matt Jaffe, are like 50% human.
Are we replicants? Or,
Something. Could you
No.
define that for the audience who doesn't know?
Well-
Obviously, I know.
Well, it's actually a bad reference because they're no percent human, but
Yeah,
they
well,
are.
Maybe that's us. We're just
But-
so good at pretending.
They are the replications of humans in the Blade Runner franchise that, are created by Tyrell Corporation to do work for humans.
Yeah, well, that might be us.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what a thing. You might have thought that I was exaggerating earlier this evening when I said we're going to get a glimpse of your soul, but I feel like we really got a glimpse of your soul tonight.
I'm glad. I still feel like I'm disappointed a little by not finding the best, like, maybe Deckard. Maybe Deckard. I don't know.
If somebody has not watched that, what is it and how?
That is the Harrison Ford character. I'd love to be the Ryan Gosling character, but
What a dreamboat.
what a dreamboat. I mean, come on. First Man, La La Land, The Notebook.
Hubba hubba. Wow.
Yeah.
Woo, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's stick with Harrison Ford here. He's the character who, in different cuts of the movie, is suggested to differing degrees that he himself is a replicant, and he himself feels love for the Sean. What's the actress's name? Sean. You know, the
Sean Penn.
no. The woman. The female lead from the original Blade Runner. So I like that he is romantic interest, but is still kind of like doing his job, and is kind of like
Sean Young.
Sean Young. There's a relationship there that's more than strongly suggested. But he is like sort of workmanlike. And I don't want to hunt down people and kill them.
Unless you have to.
Although they're not really people, they are replicants.
Yeah.
And I would feel less bad about that than getting someone across the throat, a la Alias.
That would
And-
make it clean, except for that last, the last lines. Who was the guy that?
Rutger.
Yeah, Rutger Hauer. My
Yeah.
God, that is such a powerful scene.
It is. It
and,
really
and
is.
actually, they are humans. Is the whole point? They
Sure.
were humans. Yeah.
But I think that'd be a great, person for me to be. I think I would take that because the Sean Young character is still more human than Ryan Gosling's love interest, who is literally just a projection in Blade Runner 2049.
Matt Jaffe. I wouldn't feel bad about anything. I think that you have been an extremely generous guest on this program.
Absolutely.
I mean, for somebody who seems to struggle with emotional stuff a little bit and like trying to be more, I don't know, human. I think that you go ahead. Yes, you seem to have had a revelation.
Yeah, I did. Trying to figure. So I'm watching this whole body of work, and it starts with this really charming piece in an elevator, and it moves along to all these different phases of your writing. Yeah, you're missing vulnerability in your first early tunes, and I'm trying to think, what the fuck? What's missing here? This kid has got the voice, he's got the guitar, he's got the words. So yeah, he admits that maybe he's a little light on experience, but not exactly as we hear this whole story. What is missing? Why aren't people saying, dude, this kid's got it? I think you're just about to be blowing it out in big ways, hopefully. I think it's the humanity part. Your very first song was about being in an elevator.
Well, that's one I wrote with a friend.
That was a beautiful tune.
Thank you. I shared that with Rob on the drive today.
Oh, it's a great tune. Yeah, dope.
Rad.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for me to say this, but because I'm trying to figure.
Well, you've been attacking him all night long.
I have not been attacking him.
Absolutely, you have.
16 days. You know,
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
so
remember that? I know it was like 2 hours ago, but I will never forget that
16
attack.
days seems to be a little light, but
Yeah.
that's just me.
Not when it's curated.
I have nothing.
Not when it's
Here's the
curated.
thing: when I need tunes on my iPod, I give it to Jim, and he does it for me.
Yes,
that's the best.
But
I got out of it.
But you digress.
Anyway, but I digress. I wonder if what the final ingredient needing to be added here is being able to pull your humanity out, and I think that's it. And it just hit me like a rock there for a minute. Wow, dude, that's it. It's been too clean. It's been too pat. There haven't been any tears.
Yeah, well, I definitely think that's true on the first two records. They're like pretty. I mean, I feel things that went into that. It's not. Although I guess that's sort of an important distinction is the sort of the inspiration and the product. Or product is such a ugly word, but
because, dude, it's all coming from the tubes. It's all coming from the movies. No, it's all coming from the movies. It's all coming from flicks. It's all coming from unreality.
Yeah, well, I embrace unreality, and I think there's a way to show it that is very emotional. I mean, a song that I've listened to a lot lately is Mr. Tambourine Man, and
wow, the Birds.
Well,
no, look, you're talking about David. Well, yeah, it is. Here's the deal. It's a. We go right back to it was originally Bob Dylan, but for me it was the Birds version of it, which was a smoking tune, and it was one of the first tunes I ever played. I love the tune.
Stop insulting this man.
I'm not insulting. I particularly love David Crosby's writing style, as a matter of fact.
Here's
the
the thing I think you're trying to
the
say
guy made
as you attack this man, our guest.
I'm not attacking. When did I attack him?
I think what you're saying is this: he early stuff, copy of a copy of a copy.
This was not meant to be an attack. I'm honest to God. I watched this kid's stuff because you were a kid when you got started. Honest to God, and early on, you're having interviews with the Chronicle writer. I mean, you went out on the road with Blues Traveler.
John Popper and the Boys.
John Popper and the other Travelers.
The Boys.
Yeah, all right, the Boys. Anyway, you went on the road with John Popper and the Boys. And so what the fuck does it take for a kid like this, for you guys, to jump in and go that further step? And I'm telling you.
That's another conversation for another time, because I don't feel like it really engages who I am versus what I think about an industry. But yeah, I think it's A, learning vulnerability, and it's B, curating vulnerability, because I have just a shit ton of songs,
I think
and not all of them are good, but the ones that I selected for those two records are far from the ones that would get to the places this conversation has gotten to. The most recent record, The Spirit Catches You, it gets to the tip of the iceberg. Some of the songs you mentioned, Raise the Dead, which actually is not really about my experience as a part of the near-death club, but Rumors of Your Ghost actually to me is the one that has sort of the most heart to it, and that to me is where I want to go. Like, I sort of understand the guideposts now and the records that I want to make in a way that I hadn't before, and I'd like to, on the record, disconnect this from how it will impact my success in the music industry, but in terms of like my records being a better sort of lithograph of my soul on wood, you know, like I hope they're that. I think I understand how to do that.
Have you written the tune that makes you can be brought to tears by the right movie ending or by the right song? Have you found that yet? Have you written that tune yet?
Well, Rumors of Your... Sure, yeah, some that I've written, yeah. I would say the one... It's tough for me because they're bringing back memories for me.
Yeah, and I also wonder how much of it is like memories and like watching other people watch your struggle. You know what I mean? Watching your mother break down or your dad like have a hard time like keep it together because he sees your scar. That right there is you reacting really to their emotional reaction to your struggle.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little oversimplified to say that I am too biased because I see memories, because, you know, the perfect piece of art is, you know, a prism through which other people can refract their own memories. So it's not like having memories, period, is too impartial a thing. And yet, I think because it's my music, my memories, it is perhaps a little too biased.
I'm just appreciative that you shared all that with us. Yeah. And I will also say that I think that, you know, slight emotional disconnection that some of the people at this table seem to have, I think has served this episode quite well. It hasn't been a sob story. I think it's been emotional where it needed to be emotional, but also, you know, for the people who like to smile, there's been some smiles.
I want to say also, this like feels obvious to me, but in case it's not, I want to thank these two guys for like just hanging out. I've been like such a talker. I mean, I know we got onto certain subjects that you guys might not have exactly, you know.
It's the Matt Jaffe episode. They know that.
Yeah, all right.
It's the Matt Jaffe episode.
It's cool. I just want you guys to know it's been awesome to share this space with you, and I appreciate you both, and I appreciate being able to make music. And, you know, Alex and I have been making music together for like 7 years, going on 7 years.
He's almost on everyone. He's almost on every video you look at with you. As a matter of fact, this guy is always going to be behind you.
Yeah, and
there lurking.
And getting to know Rob recently, it's really a pleasure. And this is such a like. Well, first of all, you guys are like super professional, which makes everything possible for me. But that's like not what this is about. It's just such a joy, like getting to play with you guys and getting to like show up to gigs and be like, man, I'm excited to see my bandmates,
Matt Jaffe and the boys.
Yeah, so I just, you know, I feel like that may be lost in like the incredible saturation of this episode by me, but I just want that to be out there.
Appreciate that, man. Joy's the word for it, man. Thank you.
Matt Jaffe and the boys. Matt Jaffe and the boys. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. Matt, you have been on our radar for a long time, so it's cool that we got to have you on this show. And you've like for a minute said you felt bad about like not being emotional enough. I don't know what you said, but don't feel bad at all about this. This was an incredible thing. Thank you for sharing so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was very special. You can tell when somebody shows up and wants to actually like share their truth and try to like have a conversation about what goes into their music, and you did that. Your music is wonderful, and we're glad that we got to document it here tonight. So thank you guys for coming. And speaking of your music, in just a moment, a collection of songs by Matt Jaffe and the band are next. Thank you guys again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't you fool yourself into thinking that you're important to me, yeah. And I won't fool myself into thinking that I'm an emotional debt. I see you take 2 steps away, and I don't mind, but I just wish you'd say, I don't wanna be your obligation, and I don't wanna have to be a chore. Well, if you want out, send me your resignation. But if you want in, you're gonna have to give me more. Well, I can't change if you walk around me. We are gonna have to collide. Well, you may wish that you never found me, but that was never yours to decide. It's hard to tell, to look inside when nothing's there but foolish pride. I don't wanna be your obligation, and I don't wanna have to be a chore. Well, if you want out, send me your resignation. But if you want in, you're gonna have to give me more. 'Cause I don't wanna be your chore. Well, I'm not asking for attention. I don't want it if it isn't there. But I can't help but beg the question. Why should I still even care? I'm reaching out, but there's no touch. I guess I shouldn't care so much. I don't wanna be your obligation, and I don't walk 1,000,000 miles, I'd write 1,000 novels, I'd dig 100 tunnels, oh, with a paper shovel, I'd judge 1,000,000,000 trials, oh, with a feather gavel, get on my knees and grovel. One, two, three, quattro. When I left California, I could barely touch my toes. Matter how they warn you, that's just how the story goes. Now I'm 1/4 short of the payphone out back, and I'm trying to find my way on a torn and tattered map. She said, write a song about me, but I'd rather write about the road. She was lying in the grass. We both agreed we could forget about the past. I had just come from the embryonic west. I thought love was a joke, well she thought it was a test. Everything was stable, that's when it's most likely to explode. I changed my name and overcame my fears. Nothing's really conquered if it just disappears. For a little while we were united on one front, but we were both acting, doing our own stunts. The mountainside was steady, it was getting ready to erode. She said, write a song about me, you can keep me close forever. But now that she's without me, think I'd rather think about her never. So when I left California, I could barely touch my toes. No matter how they want you, that's just how the story goes. Now I'm 1/4 short of the payphone out back, and I'm trying to find my way on a torn and tattered map. She said, write a song about me, but I'd rather write about the road. Yes, down the road. Last time I saw her, I was covered in the snow. She had buried me up to just under my nose. I tried to scream, I couldn't make a sound. With all of my body incubated underground. She was probably hoping that I would simply decompose. Days have turned to frost, and weeks have turned to ice. I didn't know demons could inhabit paradise. Now I'm trying to get back to the city by the bar, but my shoes get stuck on the sidewalks in the salt. I'll send her a postcard written in binary code. She said, write a song about me, you can keep me close forever. But now that she's without me, think I'd rather think about her never. Oh. back to those moments that I remember like a dream. These days you feel like my opponent. I wish that we were on the same team.